There's a man alive right now who never cheated, never lied, never destroyed a family, and society still treats him like something is wrong with him. His crime? He chose peace. He looked at modern relationships, did the math, and quietly walked away. Not angry, not bitter, not heartbroken, clear. And that clarity made him dangerous. Because when a man says, "I don't want chaos, I want peace," people don't ask what he saw. They ask, what's wrong with him? But the real question is this: what did he figure out that everyone else is afraid to see? Something changed over the last 20 years. Not in a loud, headline-grabbing way. Not with protests or announcements. It shifted quietly in expectations, in priorities, in what people believed relationships were supposed to give them. If you blinked, you missed it. Marriage used to be framed as a long-term alliance. Two people accepting that life would be hard, that sacrifice was normal, that stability mattered more than constant excitement. Love was important, yes, but so were duty, patience, and endurance. Today, the story sounds different. Now the focus is fulfillment first, happiness first, personal growth first. And while those things sound positive, and often are, they change the foundation. Commitment became conditional. Stability became negotiable. For better or worse slowly turned into as long as this still feels right. That cultural shift didn't target one gender. It reshaped the entire structure of relationships. But the man who eventually chose to stay single noticed something specific inside that change. He watched his father give everything to his family, decades of work, stress, responsibility, only to end up alone in a small apartment, seeing his kids on a schedule instead of at the dinner table. He watched friends fall deeply in love, promise forever, and then slowly disappear under financial pressure, emotional distance, and constant tension neither of them knew how to fix. He saw men who were loyal, men who were present, men who truly tried, and still, many of them ended up starting over from zero, emotionally drained, financially set back, and questioning how something that began with love turned into a quiet battlefield. After seeing that pattern enough times, something clicked. It wasn't panic. It wasn't bitterness. It was recognition. The kind that happens when you've seen the same movie play out again and again. Different actors, same ending. And pattern recognition changes you. It makes you pause where others rush. It makes you question what others assume. It makes you calculate long-term consequences when everyone else is focused on short-term feelings. So when people later asked him why he never settled down, they assumed hesitation came from fear. But from his perspective, it came from observation. He wasn't rejecting love. He wasn't rejecting connection. He was questioning whether the modern structure surrounding those things still made sense for the life he wanted to live. Because when you've watched enough good people lose peace, access to their children, financial stability, and emotional health, you stop asking, what if it works? You start asking, what if it doesn't? And I'm the one paying for it for the next 20 years. That question doesn't make someone broken. It makes them careful. And careful people don't jump just because everyone else is running toward the edge. They step back. They observe. They choose deliberately. And sometimes, that deliberate choice is to build a life where peace isn't something you hope a relationship gives you. It's something you protect first. When he tries to explain his choice, something strange happens. People don't hear his reasoning. They don't hear life experience. They don't hear careful thought. They hear a problem that needs to be fixed. He says, I've thought about it deeply. They hear, I'm afraid. He says, I like my life the way it is. They hear, I can't handle commitment. He says, I'm at peace. They hear, I'm emotionally unavailable. Because most people were raised with an invisible assumption. That long-term partnership is not just a choice, but a milestone. a requirement, the final proof of adulthood. So when someone calmly steps off that path on purpose, it doesn't compute. It challenges a belief they never realized they were carrying. Because if being single can be intentional, then partnership isn't destiny. It's an option. And options are uncomfortable when you've already locked yourself into one road. Because every option you didn't take becomes a quiet question in the back of your mind. That's why his peace feels threatening to people who never stopped to ask if their own path was chosen or inherited. Now here's what gets misunderstood the most. This man doesn't hate women. He's not trying to outsmart anyone. He's not against love. He simply refuses to sign up for a version of life where the risks feel heavier than the rewards. That's not rebellion. That's risk assessment. He still believes in connection, still values companionship, still respects relationships that are healthy and balanced. But he also values waking up to silence instead of tension. He values financial freedom instead of constant pressure. He values being able to move cities, change careers, or redesign his life without negotiations that feel like permission requests. To him, freedom isn't loneliness. It's stability. And when he compares both lifestyles honestly, not emotionally, not socially, but practically, the quieter life feels stronger, safer, and more aligned. Not because he's incapable of love, but because he refuses to gamble his peace just to prove he can participate in something everyone else calls normal. And that quiet confidence, it's hard to argue with, which is why so many people try to label it instead. There's a truth nobody wants to say out loud. The economic reality of modern relationships is rarely discussed because it's uncomfortable. Marriage, family, even love have long been tied to a system that demands more than affection. Bigger houses, expensive cars, long-term financial commitments, endless obligations. For some, that structure feels meaningful, fulfilling, secure. But for others, it feels like a treadmill you never agreed to step on. A contract where the cost is far higher than the reward, and the terms are constantly changing. And the man who chooses to live outside that system, he doesn't fit the blueprint. He doesn't follow the script. He doesn't react the way people expect. He lives modestly. He saves intentionally. He builds a life designed around freedom instead of approval. And that freedom, it makes him harder to manipulate, harder to control, harder to predict. Because in a world built on obligation and sacrifice, a self-sufficient man is an anomaly, a glitch in the system, a silent threat. Not because he's rebelling, not because he hates rules, not because he's trying to prove something, because he simply doesn't need what everyone else assumes he does. And that's what makes independence so powerful and so misunderstood. Look at how differently society interprets autonomy depending on who claims it. When a woman builds a life on her own terms, career, travel, friends, adventure, growth, she's praised, empowered, applauded for strength, for courage, for ambition. When a man does the same, suddenly it's questioned, labeled, misunderstood. Something must be missing. Something must be wrong. And maybe that's the only truth we need to see clearly. Some people are naturally partnership-oriented. Some people are autonomy-oriented. Neither path is better or worse. Neither path is a failure. But the world only celebrates one as evolution and treats the other as deficiency. The man who chooses peace isn't trying to prove a point. He isn't posting speeches on social media. He isn't forming movements or arguing online. He's just living, working, building, taking care of his body, his mind, and his health, investing in friendships that matter, exploring life without pressure. He's not scrambling for validation, not bending himself to be chosen, not panicking about being alone. And yet, when someone notices him, when someone finally pauses to look, they see something startling. He isn't closed off. He isn't lonely. He isn't incomplete. He's whole. He's calm. He's intentional. He's free. And that calm independence, it's magnetic. It's unsettling. It's revolutionary. Because in a world built on chaos, compromise, and constant negotiation, a man who simply lives for himself and thrives doing it becomes the most powerful figure in the room. Not because he fights, not because he chases, not because he demands attention, but because he doesn't need to. And that quiet strength, that radical peace, changes everything. Imagine a world that quietly tells you you're incomplete, that you're only half of something, that happiness, purpose, and fulfillment are always waiting somewhere else, with someone else. And now imagine meeting someone who doesn't feel that way at all. Someone who doesn't search for a missing piece because he never needed one. Someone for whom solitude isn't emptiness, it's alignment. It's not loneliness. It's balanced. It's clear. It's power. That kind of completeness is confusing to most people, because we've been trained to believe that independence must be earned through compromise. That peace can only exist alongside validation from someone else. That love is only meaningful when it's tied to sacrifice, obligation. But what if the opposite were true? What if the man who walks alone isn't missing anything at all? What if his solitude is the measure of how fully he's built himself? Unshakable, whole, unbending. This isn't a story about men versus women. It's about awareness versus autopilot. Some people step into relationships because it's expected, because that's what society says, because everyone else is doing it. Some step in because it aligns with their heart, their purpose, their vision. And some step back, not because they are afraid of connection, not because they are broken, but because they've realized that peace, true, lasting peace, matters more than partnership, more than validation, more than status, appearance, or social expectation. The man who chose peace didn't reject love. He rejected a version of life that didn't feel real, that didn't feel honest, that demanded more from him than he was willing to give just to fit in. And here's the remarkable part. Whether others understand it or not, he wakes up every day without resentment, without regret, without the quiet, nagging sense that he betrayed himself to meet someone else's standard. That isn't dysfunction. That isn't fair. That isn't failure. That is clarity. Radical, unshakable clarity. And once someone reaches it, the world doesn't feel the same. Because clarity is undeniable. It can't be argued with. It can't be shamed. It doesn't need anyone's permission. It just exists. And when you see someone living like this, fully at peace, fully whole, you realize something the world often forgets. The most dangerous thing isn't a man who chases. It's a man who doesn't need to. Stop for a moment and imagine the man who walks through life on his own terms. Not lonely, not desperate, not incomplete. He didn't settle because it was expected. He didn't chase because society demanded it. He didn't compromise because tradition said he should. He chose something else. He chose himself. The single man by choice isn't broken, is not unfinished, is not waiting for someone else to make him whole. What he is proof. Proof that fulfillment doesn't come in one shape. Proof that happiness isn't reserved for those who follow a predetermined script. Proof that life can be designed intentionally, without sacrificing peace, clarity, or freedom. And here's the thing most people don't see at first glance. This man's life isn't empty. It's not quiet because it's lacking. It's quiet because he made it that way. It's focused. It's calm. It's deliberate. In a world full of noise, constant comparison, endless scrolling, pressure to perform, and a relentless expectation to measure your worth against someone else's standard, this man stands out. Not because he's loud, not because he demands attention, not because he needs validation, but because he doesn't. He works. He grows. He builds. He cultivates friendships that matter. He invests in experiences that align with his values. He takes care of his mind, his body, and his time. And every day, he wakes up knowing that he is enough. He is complete. And that completeness, that quiet, radical self-sufficiency, is revolutionary. Because the world is designed to confuse peace with emptiness. It teaches people that independence is fear, solitude is weakness, and self-prioritization is selfishness. But he has learned the secret that the system doesn't want you to know. True freedom doesn't demand permission. True peace doesn't need approval. True fulfillment isn't found by following a path someone else mapped out. It's built intentionally, step by step, moment by moment. And when others watch him, they often misunderstand. They assume he's lost something. They assume he's running. They assume he's waiting. But he isn't. He's present. He's aware. He's thriving. And maybe that's the most radical thing anyone can do in this noisy, chaotic world. To stop living life according to everyone else's expectations. To stop seeking validation for existing. To stop measuring worth by someone else's standards. To instead build a life that feels calm, whole, and entirely your own. No compromise. No concession. No apology. Just clarity. Just freedom. Just peace. And in that quiet, deliberate life, he becomes unshakable. Not because he dominates. Not because he controls. But because he has discovered the one thing everyone else is chasing in vain. Himself. And that is enough. And now, ask yourself this. How much of your life are you truly living on your own terms? If this story made you pause, made you rethink what peace, freedom, and self-worth really mean, then don't just watch and scroll. Smash that like button to support content that challenges the status quo. Drop a comment below and share your thoughts. Do you choose peace? Or are you still chasing what everyone else says you should want? I want to hear your story. And if you want more insights that cut through the noise, that help you see life clearly, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Because this channel isn't about following the crowd. It's about thinking for yourself. Building a life you control. Finding your clarity. Remember, freedom, peace, and self-respect aren't given. They are chosen. And today, you took the first step just by watching. So like, comment, subscribe, and join the movement of those who refuse to settle. Your life, your rules, your peace.